A very good afternoon to one and all of you, and thanks a lot for being in my course, and thank you attendees for being with us. We all now do understand that all of these procedures have a very significant role to play in the refractive surgery armamentarium. This topic is just going to tell you about the stand of SMILE based on what we have in evidence. So it seemed to make sense to compare SMILE with all the some of the procedures based on the visual outcome analysis. There's astigmatic issues, which seems to be a little controversial. The biomechanical understanding, whether it is as inflated a role to play or is it as in line with the other procedures, SMILE versus Contura, and a little about regressions and enhancements. Not moving. So when you look at the different papers, when you look at the refractive outcomes, what comes to light in many of these papers is that the SMILE and femtolasic are pretty similar at 20/40 and 20/20. But when you go further down and check, there seems to be some gain of vision in the SMILE procedures, though we cannot say it as a significant point to be noted, but there are many papers which claim. When you look at the predictability over the 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year period, SMILE seems to be on par with femtolasic. This is another randomized control study of femtolasic versus SMILE of 70 patients, wherein we looked at the safety, predictability, and the stability. And what we found was they were so very similar at all time points in these eyes. So what is it which seems to be very promising for SMILE is the SMILE lenticule design itself is aspheric, and that in itself there's a lesser induction of spherical aberrations. We all do understand that there is some spherical aberrations which are induced with the excimer laser because of the peripheral energy losses and the smaller functional optic zone. It also seems to be interesting to see that the centration on the visual axis seems to be quite favorable and doing well in spite of not having all those eye trackers which are there with the excimer laser. And the larger effective zone with smaller transitions is again a favorable point. And the other important thing is the fact that it's so obvious there's less amount of the nerves denervation which is occurring. So the less dry eye status would mean less inflammatory mediator release, and that could be a reason for a more optimal vision. Again, the lesser regressions are explained by a more stable wound healing response and hence a lowered enhancement rates. When you look at the astigmatism, different studies tell us that there are about 10 to 12% of undercorrection occurs with SMILE. But if you look at the higher grades of astigmatism over 3 diopters, both femtolasic and SMILE seems to have shown undercorrection. There was no statistical differences. Rather, there have been suggestions in some papers about manual compensation and the triple marking centration. And based on that, there was even an understanding that probably we could increase a 10% increase over the refractive cylinder value, which is being entered. But then again, this has not yet become a standardized refraction protocol. And again, the amount of astigmatism pre-op is something to be wary of about the amount of correction post-op. As far as the manual cyclotorsion thing, we did do a study in our center also, wherein it was tried to be just after the dock, we tried to position the lenticule exactly in the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock meridian, but there was not a very significant difference in that. So probably it's promising. Maybe there's a lesser induction of higher order aberrations and spherical aberrations and coma in some of these papers. In higher grades of astigmatism, again, there is no head-to-head comparison. If you look at the biomechanical understanding studies, there is a lot of heterogeneity in the studies. Rather, it's probably because of the diverse characteristics of the patients and the study designs. Probably an RCT should be done analyzing the lower myopes separately and the higher myopes, comparing them with ORA and Corbis, both in all these studies. But one thing seems to be apparent, although you cannot be so specific, that probably PRK would come before SMILE and LASIK would come before SMILE, and then LASIK last of all, because it seems so reasonable to think that staying frapless is the way to go. The vertical cuts, which are definitely more inferior, apparently biomechanically, to the horizontal delamination which occurs in SMILE. And we are still to go way forward as far as the extra strengthening of the cross-linking is concerned. This was quite an old paper which compared the corneas with similar pachymetry and similar flap thickness and similar ablation patterns, it seemed to show in the early days that SMILE fared better, but we are not sure about it after doing many more SMILE over the years. Biomechanically, this is again another study of finite elements analysis, which told us that SMILE seemed to be more biomechanically stable, which probably hinted to us that we could try correcting higher refractive errors, but we are still not moved on beyond that. There are any number of studies which have come forward to look at the biomechanics based on the auras and Corvus, but we still are not very clear about which is most ideal. Ectasia again have been far and few and not well reported. Many of these so-called ectasia have been formed from keratoconus, which has not been correctly judged because there are so many tools by which we could analyze it. So probably all that we can say today is the changes are so subtle that it does not warrant any specific screening criteria to say that this procedure is better than this, then better than that. Again, this was one big study. 22 studies were conducted with a lot of RCTs and prospective studies and retrospective cohort studies, which again said that PRK and LASIK does better, then comes SMILE, and then comes LASIK. The next thing is extra, doing cross-linking with SMILE. It was seen that if you use a half fluence and low energy parameters, like some have used 30 milliwatts for 90 seconds, some have used 45 milliwatts for 75 seconds, it was seen that there was a mild haze, there was compactness of stroma, there apparently appeared to be increased in corneal resistant factor, no endothelial cell loss. In fact, Sri Ganesh et al. Did 40-eye study of SMILE Extra over a 12-month follow-up with no complications, and they claimed that SMILE Extra seemed to do better than a similar group of SMILE. Again, this was another study which said that the SMILE Extra had greater stability and over the regular SMILE procedures. Going further, this is another one-year comparison study comparing SMILE Extra versus Femto Extra. And this, the only conclusion which came was that the safety, efficacy, and predictability and stability was parallel in both these eyes. The next interesting thing which we would want to know is SMILE versus Contura. And we did 400 eyes prospective follow-up based on subjective refraction. And we found that both these procedures were predictable, were equally safe, were equally efficient. So we could at least come to an understanding in this limited study of ours that there was nothing more promising about one over the other procedures. But then we need to really look through many more studies before we could actually say anything conclusive. And if you look at enhancement or regression, it's definitely has been shown in any number of papers that LASIK procedures, the incidence of regression is more and the need for enhancement is no as compared to SMILE. In SMILE, the risk factors were if older age group, or if there was a higher mean spherical equivalent or a higher astigmatism, or if there has been an intraoperative suction loss. And the reasoning for this is the difficulty in retaining the original centration in these eyes after redocking because of the lack of visibility with the gas bubbles and the tissue edema. And probably there is some distortion of a stromal lamellae which occurs, because of which there is this possibility. Choice of approach for SMILE has been a lot more, like either you could do an PRK procedure or a thin flap LASIK, or you could use Circle software, of which the D approach seemed to be promising. Again, when there was a comparative study with surface ablation and Circle cap to flap, it was seen that they were comparable. Of course, we need to accept that if you do an enhancement post SMILE, all the claimed advantage of SMILE is lost. And because you are again limited by the vagaries of excimer, but the only thing which you see is a fresh cut to lift the SMILE may not be challenged by the epithelial growth if you do a Circle software. And again, because the inflammatory response is minimal, it probably makes you think that the secondary regression would be low. So basically, I don't think we could conclude majorly from this literature search, but at least what we do understand is that SMILE has a role to play, FemtoLASIK has a role to play, and PRK has a significant role to play. Beyond that, maybe more years and many more studies would help us completely understand where we stand as far as these procedures are concerned. That is the superiority of one over the other. Thank you very much.